Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Discovery and watched the stars through the main screen. His ship had been exploring this sector for 3 months now, and they had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. The crew was getting restless, and Jake could not blame them. Space exploration sounded exciting until you realized how much empty space there really was between anything interesting. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker looked up from her communications station with a frown on her face. She had been the ship's communications officer for 2 years now, and Jake trusted her judgment completely. When Lisa frowned like that, it usually meant trouble was coming their way. "Captain, we are getting some strange readings on long-range sensors," Lisa said, while adjusting her headset. "There are multiple ships approaching our position from the Galactic Rim direction." Commander Rick Davis immediately turned from his tactical station and began running scans. Rick had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the Exploration Service, and he knew how to spot trouble before it arrived. His fingers moved quickly across his control panel as he gathered data about the approaching vessels. "How many ships are we talking about?" Lisa Jake asked, while moving to stand behind her station. He could see the concern in her eyes, and that made him worry too. The Discovery was alone out here, and the nearest human ship was weeks away, even at maximum speed. "Sensors show at least 40 ships, Captain, and they are big ones," Rick called out from his station. "These are not exploration vessels like ours. They look more like warships from what I can tell." Jake felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "How long until they reach us, Commander Davis? At their current speed, about 6 hours, Captain," Rick replied while continuing his scans. "They are not trying to hide their approach either. In fact, they seem to be broadcasting some kind of signal." Lisa worked at her station for several minutes before looking up with a puzzled expression. "Captain, I am picking up their transmission, but it is in multiple languages. Some of them I do not recognize at all. Can you translate any of it?" Jake asked, while watching the sensor display that showed the approaching fleet. The ships were definitely heading straight for the Discovery, and they were not slowing down. "Working on it now," Captain Lisa said as she activated the ship's translation systems. "The computer is trying to match the language patterns, but this might take some time." Dr. Amy Johnson entered the bridge from the science section, carrying a data pad in her hands. Amy was the ship's chief science officer, and she looked excited about something. Jake had learned that when Amy looked excited, it could mean either a great discovery or terrible danger. "Captain, I have been monitoring the approaching ships," Amy said while walking over to Jake. "Technology is very interesting. They seem to be using basic fusion drives and metal hull construction." "What does that tell us?" Dr. Jake asked, while taking the data pad from her hands. The information on the screen showed detailed scans of the alien vessels. "Well, Captain, their ships appear to be using technology that is similar to what Earth used about 200 years ago," Amy explained, with a slight smile. "Their engines are efficient, but not very advanced, and their hull materials are strong but basic." Commander Davis looked up from his station with surprise. "Doctor, are you saying these aliens are less advanced than we are?" "That appears to be the case," Commander Amy replied while pointing at her data. "Their ships are large and numerous, but they do not seem to have the technological advantages we might expect from a spacefaring civilization." Lisa suddenly straightened in her chair and held up her hand for silence. "Captain, I am getting a clear transmission now. The translation system has locked onto their main language." Jake moved back to his command chair and sat down. "Put it on speakers, Lisa." The bridge filled with a deep alien voice that spoke in broken but understandable English. "Primitive humans of the small vessel, you will surrender immediately to the Great Galactic Confederation. Your species has been found, and you must now submit to galactic law." Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same expression on all their faces. They were trying very hard not to laugh. The alien voice continued speaking with great authority about human surrender and submission, but the words sounded more silly than threatening. "I am Admiral Zexera of the mighty Kethrim fleet," the voice continued. "Your primitive technology cannot stand against our advanced warships. You will prepare for boarding and inspection." Rick checked his tactical displays again and shook his head in amazement. "Captain, their weapons appear to be basic plasma cannons, and their shields are simple energy barriers. Nothing we have not seen before." Amy leaned over to whisper to Jake. "Captain, their flagship is nearly 1 kilometer long, but it appears to be mostly empty space. The actual useful volume is quite small. The alien admiral continued his demands over the communication channel. You have one of your primitive time units to respond to our generous offer of surrender. If you refuse, we will demonstrate the power of galactic technology. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen where he could see the approaching alien fleet. The ships were indeed impressive looking with their dark hulls and weapon arrays, but Amy was right about their technology. These aliens seemed to think they were dealing with primitive humans who had barely learned to leave their home planet. "Lisa, open a channel back to them," Jake said while straightening his uniform. "Let me talk to this Admiral Zexthara channel." "Open, Captain," Lisa replied while trying to keep the amusement out of her voice. "Admiral Zexthara, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Discovery," Jake said in his most diplomatic voice. "We appreciate your generous offer and would like some time to consider our response." There was a pause before the alien admiral replied. "You wish to negotiate, human? This is wise. You have 2 of your time units to gather your tribal leaders and prepare your surrender." Jake looked at his crew and saw that they were all struggling not to smile. The alien admiral seemed to think humans were some kind of primitive tribal society that had barely discovered space travel. This could actually work to their advantage if they played it right. "We will need time to consult with our people," Admiral Jake replied. "Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss the terms of this surrender." "Very well, human captain," Zexthara replied with satisfaction in his voice. "We will wait while you prepare your submission to Galactic Authority and not attempt to flee. As our ships are faster than your primitive vessel," the communication channel closed. And the bridge was quiet for a moment before Rick started chuckling. "Captain, did he just call the Discovery primitive? I believe he did," Commander Jake replied with a grin. "Lisa, how long until they reach weapons range?" "About 5 hours now," Captain Lisa answered while monitoring their approach. "They have slowed down slightly, but they are still coming straight at us." Jake sat back down in his command chair and thought about their situation. The Discovery was alone against 40 alien warships, but those ships appeared to be using outdated technology. His crew was experienced and his ship was equipped with the latest human technology. This might turn out to be more interesting than he had expected. "Rick, I want you to run a full tactical analysis of their fleet," Jake ordered. "I need you to scan their technology and find out exactly what we are dealing with. Lisa, monitor all their communications and see what else you can learn about this." "Galactic Confederation." "Yes, sir," all 3 officers replied at the same time. Jake smiled as he watched his crew go to work. Admiral Zexthara and his Galactic Confederation were about to learn something very important about humans. Sometimes the primitive species turned out to be anything but primitive. Dr. Amy Johnson worked quietly in her science lab while running detailed scans of the alien fleet. The Discovery's sensors were far more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen, and Amy was getting incredible amounts of data about their ships and technology. What she was finding made her shake her head in amazement. Lieutenant Ben Rogers sat at his engineering station and watched the power readings from the alien vessels. Ben had been working with advanced human technology for over 10 years, and he knew exactly what he was looking at. The alien ships were using fusion reactors that Earth had stopped using 2 centuries ago. "Amy, you need to see this," Ben called out over the internal communication system. "Your main engines are putting out maybe half the power of our backup systems." Amy looked up from her data analysis and smiled. "I know, Ben, and that is not even the most interesting part. Their computer systems appear to be using basic quantum processors that we replaced with neural networks." 50 years ago on the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison listened to his science teams, REPORTS, while watching the alien fleet approach. The more he learned about these ships, the more amazed he became. Humanity had apparently been developing in isolation for much longer than anyone had realized. Commander Rick Davis finished his tactical analysis and turned to face Jake. "Captain, I have completed my review of their weapons and defenses. Are not going to believe what I found." "Let me guess, Rick," Jake said with a grin. "Their weapons are not as advanced as they think they are, Captain. Their plasma cannons are using magnetic containment systems that we stopped using when we developed particle beam weapons," Rick explained while pulling up his data on the main screen. "Their targeting computers are so slow that our point defense systems could probably shoot down their weapons fire before it reached us. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker looked up from her communications station where she had been monitoring alien transmissions. Captain, I have been listening to their internal communications, and I think I understand what is happening here. Jake walked over to Lisa's station and looked at her translation logs. What have you found, Lisa? The aliens keep talking about how impressive their fleet is and how quickly human surrender will come, Lisa explained while scrolling through the intercepted messages. They seem to think this is routine for them, like they have done this many times before. Dr. Amy Johnson's voice came over the communication system from her lab. Captain, I need to report something important. I have been analyzing their ship construction, and I think I know why they are so confident. Go ahead, Doctor, Jake replied, while settling into his command chair. Captain, most of the galaxy appears to be at roughly the same technological level, Amy explained. These aliens have probably never encountered a species with significantly better technology than their own. They assume we are just another primitive species, because that is all they have ever found. Ben Rogers joined the conversation from engineering. Captain, that would explain why their ships are so big, but inefficient. They probably built for intimidation. Rather than performance, because it has always worked before, Jake thought about what his crew was telling him, and the implications became clear. Humanity had somehow developed much faster than the rest of the galaxy, and these aliens had no idea what they were really dealing with. The Discovery alone probably had more advanced technology than their entire fleet. What would happen if we had to fight them? Jake asked his tactical officer. Rick checked his displays and ran some quick calculations. Captain, our shields could probably handle their entire fleet firing at once without significant damage. Our weapons could disable their ships faster than they could target us. How much faster? Jake asked with growing interest. Captain, I estimate we could disable their entire fleet in under 5 minutes if we wanted to, Rick replied with confidence. Their ships are large targets with weak defenses and slow reaction times. Lisa intercepted another alien transmission and looked up with amusement. Captain Admiral Zexthera just told his fleet commanders that humans will probably surrender as soon as they see their demonstration of power. What kind of demonstration? Jake asked, while wondering what the aliens considered impressive. They plan to destroy a nearby asteroid to show us how powerful their weapons are, Lisa replied, while trying not to laugh. The Admiral thinks this will terrify us into immediate surrender. Amy's voice came over the communication system again. Captain, I am watching their target asteroid and their weapon preparation. This should be interesting. Jake activated the main screen to show the alien fleet and the asteroid they had chosen for their demonstration. The rock was maybe 2 kilometers across and looked like typical space debris. Admiral Zexthera's flagship moved into position and began charging its main weapons. Captain, they are putting almost full power into their weapons, Ben reported from engineering. This must be the best they can do. The alien flagship fired its main plasma cannons at the asteroid, and the crew of the Discovery watched in amazement. The weapons hit the rock and began slowly heating the surface. Chunks of melted stone started breaking away, but the asteroid remained mostly intact. How long is this taking? Jake asked while watching the slow destruction. About 8 minutes so far, Captain Rick replied while timing the alien demonstration. At this rate, they will need another 5 minutes to completely destroy the target. Amy laughed from her science station. Captain, our mining lasers could have vaporized that asteroid in 30 seconds. The alien admiral's voice came over the communication channel with obvious pride. Humans, you have witnessed the power of galactic technology. Your primitive ships cannot stand against such force. You will surrender now. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same expression on all their faces. They were trying very hard to maintain diplomatic composure while watching what the aliens thought was an impressive display of power. The Discovery's point defense systems could have destroyed that asteroid faster than the alien flagship's main guns. Lisa, open a channel back to the Admiral, Jake said while standing up from his command chair. Channel open, Captain Lisa replied while activating the communication system. Admiral Zexthera, we are very impressed by your demonstration, Jake said in his most respectful voice. However, we need more time to consult with our leaders about surrender terms. There was a pause before the alien admiral replied. How much time do you require, human captain? Our patience is not unlimited, Jake thought quickly about how long they would need to gather intelligence about this Galactic Confederation and what it really represented. We need 3 days, Admiral. Human decision-making requires consultation with many tribal councils. 3 days is acceptable, Zexthera replied. With satisfaction. We will wait while you prepare proper surrender documents. Do not attempt any foolish resistance, as you have seen our power. The communication channel closed and Jake sat back down while his crew resumed their analysis of the alien fleet. 3 days would give them time to learn everything they needed to know about these aliens and their confederation. Amy, I want you to scan every ship in that fleet and catalog all their technology, Jake ordered. Rick, I need tactical profiles on each vessel, including weak points and defensive capabilities. Lisa, monitor all their communications and learn everything you can about their confederation. Ben, what can you tell me about our own capabilities compared to theirs? Jake asked his chief engineer. Ben smiled and pulled up a comparison chart on his display. Captain, the Discovery has quantum drives that can move us faster than their sensors can track. Our shields use gravitational distortion that their weapons probably cannot penetrate. Our weapons are powered by antimatter systems that put out 1,000 times more energy than their fusion reactors. In other words, Ben, we are so far ahead of them technologically that this is not really a fair fight, Jake said with understanding. That is correct, Captain Ben replied. The real question is what we do with that advantage. Jake thought about the situation while watching the alien fleet maintain their position around the Discovery. 40 warships full of aliens who thought they were dealing with primitives, when in reality, they had encountered something far beyond their understanding. Lisa, what have you learned about this Galactic Confederation from their communications? Jake asked. Lisa checked her translation logs and compiled her findings. Captain, it appears to be more like a protection system than a real government.
Oh.
Catherine used their military to force other species to pay tribute and follow their rules. How many species are involved, Lisa? Jake asked with growing interest. At least 15 different species, Captain, and most of them do not seem happy about the arrangement, Lisa replied, while reviewing intercepted messages. Several species appear to be looking for alternatives to Catherine. Protection, Jake smiled as he realized the full implications of their situation. The Discovery had not just encountered an alien fleet, but had stumbled into galactic politics. Admiral Zexthera and his confederation were about to learn that humans were not another primitive species to be bullied into submission. Amy, how many human ships would it take to disable their entire fleet without causing casualties? Jake asked his science officer. Amy ran some quick calculations and looked up with surprise. Captain, I think 1 ship could do it. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready room and carefully composed his response to Admiral Zexthera. The message needed to sound appropriately primitive while buying his crew more time to gather intelligence about the Galactic Confederation. Jake had to resist the urge to smile as he typed words that would make the aliens think humans were exactly what they expected. Admiral Zexthera, this is Captain Jake Morrison speaking for the Human Tribal Council, Jake said into his personal communication recorder. We have seen your great power, and we are properly afraid of your mighty ships. Our people need time to gather the shiny rocks and useful metals you require as tribute. Jake paused the recording and shook his head in amazement. The aliens actually expected tribute payments from primitive species and seemed to think humans would be eager to comply. He continued his message in the same simple tone. Our tribal leaders are meeting to discuss how many shiny rocks we can give to your confederation. We also need to count our useful metals and decide which ones are good enough for your great ships. Please give us more time to prepare proper gifts for your powerful fleet, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker knocked on Jake's ready room door and entered with a datapad in her hands. She had been monitoring alien communications for the past day, and her expression showed both amusement and concern. Captain, I have been analyzing their internal messages and I think we need to discuss what we have learned, Lisa said while sitting down across from Jake's desk. This confederation is more complicated than we first thought. Jake finished his recording and looked up at Lisa with interest. What have you found out about them, Captain? The Kethron have been doing this for over 200 years, Lisa explained. While consulting her datapad, they find species that have just developed space travel and immediately demand submission. Most species surrender quickly because the Kethron fleet is impressive looking. But their technology is not actually impressive, Jake pointed out, while reviewing his own notes about the alien fleet. Exactly, Captain, and that appears to be because most galactic species develop at roughly the same rate, Lisa continued. The Kethron were just the first to develop warships in this region of space, so they have been able to dominate everyone else. Jake thought about the implications of what Lisa was telling him. So the entire Galactic Confederation is based on one species having a slight military advantage over everyone else. That is correct, Captain, Lisa replied with a nod. But there is more. I have identified at least 5 species in their confederation who only joined because they were forced to. They send regular tribute payments, but their communications show they resent. Kethron-controlled Dr. Amy Johnson's voice came over the internal communication system, requesting permission to join their conversation. Jake invited her to his ready room and she arrived carrying several datapads full of technical analysis. Captain, I have completed detailed scans of every ship in their fleet, Amy announced while spreading her data across Jake's desk. What I found is very interesting from both technological and political perspectives. Tell us what you discovered, Amy, Jake said while looking at her technical readouts. The Kethron ships are all built using the same basic design with fusion reactors and metal hull construction, Amy explained while pointing at her data. However, several ships in their fleet are clearly built by different species using slightly different technology. Lisa looked up from her own data with sudden understanding. Amy, are you saying that some Confederation species are required to provide ships to the Kethron fleet? Exactly, Lisa, Amy replied with excitement. I can identify at least 3 different construction techniques in their fleet. The Kethron appear to demand both tribute payments and military service from Confederation members. Jake studied the technical data while thinking about how to use this information. Amy, can you identify which ships belong to which species? Believe so, Captain, Amy said while pulling up detailed scans on her datapad. The ships with advanced sensor arrays appear to be built by a species called the Alari. The ships with improved engine efficiency seem to come from the Nithka people. Lisa, what do our communication intercepts tell us about the Alari and Nithka? Jake asked while making notes about the different species. Lisa checked her translation logs and found several relevant conversations. Captain, both species appear to be unhappy with Confederation membership. The Alari are traders who want peaceful contact with new species. The Nithka are engineers who seem frustrated by Kethron restrictions on their technology development. Jake smiled as he realized they had found potential allies among the alien fleet. So we have trading partners and engineers who are being forced to serve a military dictatorship. That appears to be the situation, Captain, Amy confirmed while reviewing her scans. Both species have better technology than the Kethron in their areas of specialty, but they are outnumbered by Kethron warships. Commander Rick Davis entered the ready room after requesting permission to join the discussion. Captain, I have been analyzing their fleet formations and I think I understand their tactics. What have you learned, Rick? Jake asked while making room at his desk for another datapad. Captain, the Kethron positioned their own warships around the ships from other species, Rick explained while showing his tactical analysis. It looks like they are making sure the other species cannot coordinate against them. Lisa nodded in agreement. That matches what I found in their communications, Rick. The Kethron admiral gives orders directly to each ship and does not allow the other species to communicate privately. Amy looked up from her technical data with a new idea. Captain, what? If we could communicate directly with the Alari and Nithka ships without the Kethron knowing about it, how would we do that, Amy? Jake asked, with growing interest in her suggestion. Captain, our communication systems are far more advanced than anything they have seen, Amy explained, while pulling up technical specifications. We could probably hack into their individual ship systems and send private messages. Rick checked his tactical displays and nodded in agreement. Captain, our electronic warfare capabilities are centuries ahead of their defensive systems. We could access their communications without them ever knowing we were there. Jake thought about the possibilities while looking at all the data his crew had gathered. The Discovery was not just facing a primitive alien fleet but had stumbled into a complex political situation involving multiple species and centuries of oppression. Lisa, I want you to prepare individual messages for the Alaria Nithka ships, Jake ordered while standing up from his desk. Tell them that humans are interested in peaceful trade and technological exchange, Rick. I need you to identify the best way to disable Kethron ships without harming the crews from other species, Jake continued while moving toward his ready room door. Amy, I want you to prepare a demonstration of human technology that will impress the non-Kethron species without revealing all our capabilities, Jake added, while thinking about their next moves. The three officers nodded and left Jake's ready room to prepare for what was coming next. Jake activated his personal communication system and sent his carefully worded message to Admiral Zhao. 2. Here are. Response came back over the alien admiral's response came back over the communication channel. Human Captain, your people show proper respect. For Galactic Authority, we're pleased that you understand the benefits of Confederation membership. Jake had to resist the urge to laugh as he listened to the Admiral's satisfied tone. Zexthera clearly believed that humans were just another primitive species, would gladly pay tribute to avoid being conquered. We look forward to your formal surrender ceremony in 2 days, the Admiral continued. Prepare your tribute offerings and ready your ship for Confederation inspection. The communication ended, and Jake called his senior staff to the bridge for a final planning meeting. Lieutenant Ben Rogers joined them from engineering with reports about Discovery's combat readiness. Captain, all systems are operating at full efficiency, Ben announced while checking his engineering displays. Our quantum drives are ready for immediate activation, and our weapons are fully charged. Ben, how quickly could we disable their entire fleet if we had to? Jake asked, while settling into his command. Chair, Ben ran some calculations and looked up with confidence. Captain, I estimate 30 seconds to disable all Kethron ships, and maybe 2 minutes to carefully disable the ships from other species without causing casualties. Lisa finished her work at the communications station and turned to face Jake. Captain, I have prepared individual messages for 12 ships that appear to belong to non-Kethron species. Rick, what is our tactical situation if Admiral Zexthera decides to attack us early? Jake asked his security chief. Rick checked his displays and smiled. Captain, their weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and their ships cannot outrun our engines. We could disable them, or simply leave whenever we want. Jake looked around at his crew and realized they were ready for whatever came next. Admiral Zexthera expected human surrender in 2 days, but he was going to get a very different kind of demonstration instead. Amy, prepare to send our messages to the non-Kethron ships, Jake ordered while watching the alien fleet on his main screen. Rick, stand by for tactical operations, and Ben, prepare for immediate quantum drive activation. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Discovery and watched Admiral Zexthera's fleet arrange itself into what the aliens clearly thought was an impressive formation. The Kethron warships had positioned themselves in a large circle around the human vessel, while ships from other species formed a secondary ring further out. Jake had to admit the formation looked intimidating. If you did not know how primitive their technology really was, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker looked up from her communications station with barely controlled excitement. Captain, I have received responses from 8 of the non-Kethron ships. The Alaria and Nithka crews are very interested in peaceful contact with humanity. What exactly did they say, Lisa? Jake asked while watching the alien formation continue to tighten around his ship. Captain, the Alari ship commander asked if humans really want to trade instead of demanding tribute, Lisa replied while reading her translated messages. The Nithka engineering chief wants to know if we would share technology in exchange for their knowledge. Commander Rick Davis checked his tactical displays and confirmed that all human systems were ready for the demonstration they had planned. Captain, the alien fleet is now in optimal position for our operations. All Kethron ships are clearly identified, and the other species ships are marked as friendly targets. Dr. Amy Johnson activated her science station and began final preparations for what would probably be the most important first contact demonstration in human history. Captain, our systems are ready to show these aliens exactly what advanced technology looks like. Admiral Zexthera's voice came over the communication channel with obvious satisfaction and confidence. Human Captain, the time has come for your formal surrender to Galactic Authority. Prepare to transfer command of your primitive vessel to Confederation forces. Jake activated his personal communication system and responded in the same simple tone he had been using for 3 days. Admiral Zexthora, we are ready to discuss surrender terms with your mighty fleet. Excellent, human captain, the alien admiral replied with pleasure. You will open your ship to inspection and provide a complete inventory of your primitive technology and resources. Jake looked around at his crew and saw they were all ready for what came next. Admiral, we would be honored to demonstrate human technology for your inspection. There was a pause before Zexthora responded with confusion in his voice. You wish to demonstrate your primitive technology, human? This is not necessary, as our scans have already revealed your basic capabilities. Admiral, we insist on showing you what human ships can really do, Jake replied while signaling to his crew that the demonstration was about to begin. Very well, human captain, Zexthora said with amusement. Show us your primitive technology so we can properly catalog it for Confederation records. Jake nodded to Lieutenant Ben Rogers at the engineering station, and the Discovery suddenly came alive with power that the aliens had never imagined possible. The ship's quantum drives activated, and the Discovery began moving through the alien formation faster than their sensors could track. Lisa, broadcast our message to all ships in the fleet, Jake ordered while watching the main screen show their movement through the alien formation. Lisa activated the communication system and began broadcasting in the languages of every species present. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Discovery. We come in peace, but we will not submit to threats or demands for tribute. The Discovery appeared and disappeared throughout the alien formation as its quantum drives moved it faster than the alien ships could react. Rick activated the tactical systems and began demonstrating human defensive capabilities. Admiral Zexthora, please order your flagship to fire at us with full power, Jake said over the communication channel while the Discovery came to a stop directly in front of the alien command ship. Human, are you insane? Zexthora replied with shock. Our weapons will destroy your primitive vessel. Okay. Admiral, we insist that you fire your best weapons at us, Jake repeated, while activating the Discovery's gravitational shields. We want to show you something important about human defensive technology. Zexthora hesitated for several seconds before giving the order to his weapons officer. The Kethron flagship fired its main plasma cannons at full power directly at the Discovery's hull. The energy beams struck the human ship and simply disappeared into the gravitational distortion fields without causing any damage at all. Impossible, Zexthora said over the communication channel while his weapons continued firing uselessly at the Discovery. Amy activated her science systems and began broadcasting detailed analysis of every ship in the alien fleet. Admiral Zexthora, your flagship uses fusion reactors that produce 2.7 terawatts of power. Your main weapons draw 1.8 terawatts, leaving minimal power for shields and engines. Your hull is constructed from titanium steel alloys with a tensile strength of 850 megapascals. Amy continued, while her scans revealed technical details the aliens thought were secret. Your crew complement is 847 individuals from the Kethron homeworld. Jake activated the communication system again, while Amy continued her real-time analysis of the alien fleet. Admiral Zexthora, we have just demonstrated that human sensors can analyze your ships faster than your computers can process the data. 3 more human ships suddenly appeared from quantum jump points around the alien fleet without any warning. The alien sensors had not detected their approach because human quantum drives operated outside normal spacetime where alien technology could not track them. Admiral, these are the human vessel's courage, determination, and hope, Jake announced. While the 3 ships took positions around the alien formation, they arrived using quantum drive technology that your sensors cannot detect. Ben Rogers activated the Discovery's weapon systems and demonstrated human precision targeting by simultaneously disabling the weapon arrays on every Kethron ship in the fleet. The human weapons fired invisible particle beams that surgically removed alien weapons without damaging life support or crew areas. Admiral Zexthora, your entire fleet is now defenseless, Jake announced, while the alien ship struggled to understand what had happened to their weapons. Human targeting systems can disable your ships faster than your crews can react. Rick activated the tactical display on the main screen and showed the aliens exactly how outmatched they really were. Admiral, your ships use basic plasma cannons with magnetic targeting. Human ships use particle beam weapons with quantum targeting computers. Your fastest ships can reach half-light speed using fusion drives, Rick continued, while the display showed technical comparisons. Human ships can exceed light speed using quantum space manipulation. Lisa opened communication channels to every non-Kethran ship in the fleet and began broadcasting in their native languages. To all Confederation species, this is the human ship discovery. We offer friendship, trade, and technological cooperation to any species that wants peaceful relations. The response was immediate as ship after ship from different species began broadcasting their own messages back to the Discovery. Wanted to establish trade relationships. The Nithka wanted to share engineering knowledge. Other species asked about joining a human alliance instead of the Kethron Confederation. Admiral Zex Thora's voice came over the communication channel. With rage and confusion, this is impossible. No species has technology this advanced. You must be using some kind of deception, Amy responded, by demonstrating human sensor technology in real time. Admiral Zexthera, you are currently standing on the bridge of your flagship, wearing a ceremonial armor with embedded power cells. Your personal weapon is a plasma pistol with 17 shots remaining. Your bridge crew consists of 12 officers, and your tactical display shows that you have lost all weapon systems. Amy continued while her scans revealed details the Admiral thought were completely private. Your ship's computer is trying to understand how we disabled your weapons, but your processing speed is 2. Slow Jake activated the main communication system and addressed the entire alien fleet. To all ships present, humanity offers peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. We do not want tribute or submission. We want friendship and partnership, Admiral Zexthera. Your confederation is based on fear and threats, Jake continued, while watching the alien command ship struggle with its disabled systems. Humanity offers something different. We offer cooperation. Between equals, the Alari ship was the first to break formation and move away from the Kethron vessels. Human ship discovery, this is Captain Talandra of the Alari trading vessel Swift Current. We formally request protection under human authority. Quest granted, Captain Talandra, Jake replied while watching more ships begin to leave the Kethran formation. Humanity welcomes peaceful species who want mutual cooperation, the Nithka. Engineering ship was next to break away, followed by ships from 3 other species. Within minutes, only the Kethran warships remained in their original formation, and they were all defenseless without their weapon systems. Admiral Zexthera, your confederation appears to be dissolving, Jake observed, while counting the ships that had joined the human protection. Perhaps it is time to consider a different approach to galactic relations. Zexthera's response was full of rage, but also confusion. Human, you have destroyed the natural order of galactic civilization. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready-to-new room 3 days after the demonstration and reviewed reports from the 17 alien species that had requested human protection. The former Galactic Confederation had completely dissolved as species after species chose cooperation over domination. Admiral Zexthara and his remaining Kethron warships had withdrawn to the edge of the system and were apparently trying to decide what to do next. Dr. Amy Johnson knocked on Jake's door and entered carrying data pads from several different species. Captain, I have received detailed technology proposals from the Alari and Nithka representatives. So what they are offering is quite impressive. What kind of technology are they willing to share? Amy, Jake asked while making room on his desk for her reports. Captain, the Alari have developed advanced biological systems that could revolutionize human medicine, Amy explained, while showing him detailed scans. Their ships use living computers that can repair themselves and adapt to new situations. The Nithka have engineering techniques that could improve our manufacturing processes by 30%, Amy continued while pulling up technical diagrams. They know how to build materials at the molecular level using techniques we have not discovered yet. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker's voice came over the internal communication system requesting permission to join their discussion. Jake invited her to his ready room, and she arrived with translation logs from dozens of different species. Captain, we are receiving contact requests from species throughout this region of space, Lisa announced while spreading her communication. Logs across Jake's desk. Word about human protection has spread through galactic communication networks faster than we expected. How many species are we talking about, Lisa? Jake asked while looking at the growing list of contact requests. Captain, I have confirmed requests from 23 different species. And more are arriving every hour, Lisa replied while checking her latest translations. Most of them are asking for protection from various aggressive neighbors. Some species are offering to pay tribute just like they did to the Kethran, Lisa continued with amusement. They do not understand that humans want cooperation instead of submission. Commander Rick Davis entered the ready room after requesting permission to join the conversation. Captain, I have been monitoring Kethran communications and I think Admiral Zexthara is planning something. What kind of plans, Rick? Jake asked while wondering what the defeated Admiral might try next. Captain Zexthara has been sending messages to other Kethran fleets throughout the galaxy, Rick explained, while showing his communication intercepts. He is warning them about human technology and requesting military assistance. Amy looked up from her technical reports with concern. Captain, if the Kethran have other fleets, then this situation could become much more complicated. How many other fleets might we be dealing with? Jake asked while thinking about the implications. For human security, Captain, the intercepts suggest there are at least 6 other Kethran fleets operating in different regions of the galaxy, Rick replied, while reviewing his data. Each fleet appears to control its own collection of tributary species. Lisa checked her communication logs and found relevant information. Captain, I have been receiving messages from species in other regions asking for human assistance. Against Kethran oppression, Jake thought about the situation while looking at all the reports his crew had gathered. Humanity had accidentally triggered a galactic revolution by demonstrating that the Kethran could be defeated. Now dozens of species were looking to humans for protection and leadership. Lieutenant Ben Rogers joined the meeting from engineering with reports about Discovery's current status. Captain, we have been joined by 12 human ships that arrived using quantum drives over the past 2 days. Which ships have joined us, Ben? Jake asked while wondering how Earth Command was responding to their situation. Captain, the Exploration, Vessels Pioneer, Endeavor, and Pathfinder arrived yesterday along with the diplomatic ship Harmony, Ben explained while checking his logs.
Ow.
This morning we were joined by the science ships Curiosity, Innovation, and Research, along with 5 more diplomatic vessels. Amy smiled as she realized the implications. Captain, Earth Command is taking this first contact situation very seriously if they are sending both science and diplomatic ships. Ben, have you received any direct orders from Earth Command? Jake asked, while wondering what his superiors expected him to do. Captain, I received a message from Admiral Karen White at Earth Command 2 hours ago, Ben replied while pulling up the official communication. You are ordered to establish formal diplomatic relations with any peaceful species and provide protection against aggressive actions, Admiral. White also authorized you to negotiate mutual defense agreements and technology sharing arrangements. Ben continued while reading the message. Earth Command is sending additional ships to establish a permanent human presence in this region. Lisa looked up from her communication logs with excitement. Captain, I just received a message from Captain Talandra of the Alari ship, Swift Current. She wants to arrange a formal meeting between human and Alari leadership. What kind of meeting, Lisa? Jake asked, while thinking about the diplomatic implications. Captain, the Alari want to establish permanent trade relationships and cultural exchange programs, Lisa explained while translating the alien message. They are offering to share their biological technology in exchange for human engineering knowledge. Rick checked his tactical displays and reported on their current security situation. Captain, the Nithka have offered to help upgrade our ship systems using their molecular engineering techniques. The other species are also offering various forms of assistance and cooperation, Rick continued while reviewing his reports. It appears that everyone wants to be part of a human alliance. Amy activated her science station and pulled up data about the broader galactic situation. Captain, based on our communications intercepts, I think we need to consider the long-term implications of what we have started. What do you mean, Amy? Jake asked while settling back in his chair. Captain, we have demonstrated that cooperation produces Better results than domination, Amy explained while showing her analysis. If this idea spreads throughout the galaxy, it could change galactic civilization permanently. Jake thought about what Amy was saying and realized she was probably right. The discovery had not just defeated one alien fleet, but had challenged the basic assumptions that govern galactic politics. Lisa prepared a message to Earth Command, requesting authorization to establish a permanent diplomatic station in this region, Jake ordered, while standing up from his desk. Rick, I want you to coordinate with the other human ships to establish a defensive perimeter around our new allies, Jake continued, while moving toward his ready room door. Amy began working with the Alari and Nithka to set up formal technology. Sharing agreements, Jake added while thinking about their next steps. Ben prepared the Discovery for extended operations in this region, Jake concluded while opening his ready room door. The 4 officers nodded and left to carry out their orders, while Jake returned to his desk to compose a report for Earth Command. He needed to explain how a routine exploration mission had turned into the foundation of a new galactic alliance. Jake activated his personal communication system and began recording his report. Admiral White, this is Captain Morrison reporting on first contact situation in Sector 7. Earth Command should be aware that humanity has encountered a galactic civilization, consisting of dozens of species under the military control of an aggressive species called the Kethron, Jake continued, while organizing his thoughts. Human technology appears to be significantly more advanced than anything currently used in this region of space, Jake explained while thinking about how to summarize their situation. We have been able to offer protection to peaceful species, while demonstrating that cooperation produces better results than domination. Admiral First recommend that Earth Command establish a permanent presence in this region to coordinate with our new allies and provide ongoing protection against aggressive species, Jake concluded while finishing his report. Jake sent his message to Earth Command, and then activated the main communication system to address the growing fleet of human and allied ships. All vessels, this is Captain Morrison. We're about to make history by establishing the first interspecies alliance based on cooperation and mutual benefit to our human crews. Remember that we represent all of humanity in our actions and decisions, Jake continued while watching the mixed fleet on his main screen. To our new allies, welcome to a new kind of galactic civilization where friendship matters more than fear. The response was immediate as ships from 17 different species broadcast their agreement and support. Jake smiled as he realized that the Discovery's mission had evolved from simple exploration to building the foundation for a better galaxy. Admiral Zex Thora's voice suddenly came over the communication channel with a mixture of rage and desperation. Human ships, you have destroyed the natural order of galactic civilization. Without strong leadership, there will be chaos and war. Jake responded calmly while watching the Kethron ships maintain their distance. Admiral Zex Thora, you are welcome to join our alliance if you are willing to cooperate peacefully with other species.